Hello everybody and welcome back. So this is actually going to be a bonus video to the series of wiring up the Vista 20p security panel. So I'm sure you guys have noticed this and all the other videos and wondered what it was. Well, this is a Honeywell Audio Verification System. So I mean, what is an audio verification system and how does it really work? So if an alarm goes off on the panel, whether it would be automatic detection or maybe you manually go up to it and activate a panic, well, after the main panel itself is done reporting the alarm to the central station, then the main panel will actually transmit an additional code to the alarm receiver telling it to start listening in. And then the audio verification system module will then continue to hold the phone line open. And then from there, the call is actually routed to a central station operator, like a real person. And then using the audio verification system's speaker mic, usually they would start off by first just listening in on the property to see if they can hear what's going on. And then if they do hear somebody there, they would then enable a two-way voice conversation on the audio verification system speaker mic. So if you're an authorized person, you could just, explain the situation and then give them, your password right there just on the AVS, right there next to the keypad or just wherever you put the speaker mic. And then they would know to deactivate and not send the authorities. But if you're a trespasser and you're not responding to them when they're calling out using the AVS speaker mic, they would then say things over the speaker to, hopefully intimidate you and scare you off while they're contacting the authorities. Alright, so now let's just jump straight into wiring this thing. So the AVS board here is actually going to be wired into the same keypad terminals that are on the main board. Although, keep in mind, the AVS is actually going to be the only device that are on the keypad terminals and will actually be replacing the keypad on those terminals. So here we are at the AVS board. So like I just said earlier, first things first, we need to wire this board into the keypad terminals on the main board. So in order to do so, we're going to be using this middle row of terminals here. And it might be a little bit hard to see on the video, but in front of these terminals it says panel. And it also has different colors put in front of the terminals. So just depending on what color of wires you have, just make sure that it matches when you're wiring it at the other end. But in my case, I actually do have red wire, a black wire. I don't have a green, but I have a blue, and I also have a yellow. So in my case, it kind of works out the way it should. So the one that says red, I'm going to be putting my red wire in there. In this first terminal here, and then the one that says black, I'm going to be using my black wire. Then the one that says green, I'm going to be using my blue wire, just because that's the closest thing I have to it. Then of course yellow, I'm going to be using my yellow wire. So we got the wires all secured in on the AVS board. And here we are back to the main board again, so I'm just going to be putting in the other end of the wires coming from the AVS board the same way I would have wired in a keypad on episode 2 of this tutorial series. So now that that part's completed, now we're going to wire in the speaker mic station. Just give you a better look at it here. And yep, we're going to wire that into the AVS's circuit board. So we're actually going to be starting at the speaker station. So in order to get this open, I just pushed up on these two tabs right here with a screwdriver when they're in these two holes right here when it's closed. So in order to get this wired in, first things first, we need to bring in one end of the wire pair and wire them into these terminals here. That says the yellow, green, black, and red. So I'm going to do that real fast. Alright, so I have got those in there. And now your audio verification system should have come with a wire and a harness just like this. And that wire harness part plugs into these prongs right here on the speaker station circuit board. So let me just get that in there real fast. Alright, so now that we got that in there, now the wire harness part will only plug in one way anyway, so just make sure the holes that are on the harness here just match the way these prongs are laid out here, and it'll just simply slide right in there. Likewise. So here we are back at the AVS board. So now the other end of that wire pair, in which we wired into the terminals on the speaker station, are going to go on this top section of terminals here that is labeled AAV. So just like before, yep, the terminals are also labeled red, black, green, and yellow. And luckily for me, my wires are pretty similar in those colors. But if you have a different pair of wires or different colors, don't forget what I said earlier. Just make sure that whatever colors you use for whichever terminals just matches what terminals that you put on here. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Just like that. So now here comes the kind of weird part about wiring up the AVS. So the keypad is actually going to daisy chain off of the speaker station. And yeah, here it's wires right here, just dangling right here. And they are actually going to connect to the other end of the wiring harness that we connect inside the speaker station. So, I mean, like I said before, luckily for me, the wires that I have here, and which are wired inside the keypad, match, you know, what's labeled on the keypad terminals. The colors do. So, I mean, like I said before, if you're using a different pair of wires that are different colors, just keep track of which ones you put in what terminal. And when you're going to wire it to the other end of the harness from the speaker station, yeah, just remember what color is what. And just wire these together accordingly. So, in my case, I'm going to just wire nut these together. And for me, it'll just be simply matching the colors just because of the wires I used. So anyway, I'll be right back as I do that. Yep, just like that. I mean, it might not be the neatest, but it'll work for what we're using it for. Alright, so now let's talk about the phone wiring for the AVS. So we are going to take the tip and the ring wire pair that power the premises phones on the RJ31X biscuit, and we're going to take them off the main panel. So now we are going to take that tip and wire pair for the premises phones, and we're going to put those on these two right-hand telco terminals on the AVS board. The right half of these telco terminals is actually for premises phones as well. You might be able to see it a little bit, but it is also labeled in front of the terminals tip and ring. So in this case, brown is tip. So that's going to go on the first one, the first right-hand side one. And then gray was ring. So that's going to go on the right-hand most side. Just like that. So now that we got that part completed, now we need to take just a separate telephone wire pair like this, and one end of it is going to wire into the premises phone terminals on the main board, and then the other end of it is going to wire into these left two terminals on the AVS telco terminals. So I mean, the reason this all needs to be wired like this is because, well, when the panel gets done reporting its alarm, and then when the AVS kicks in, it'll then continue to keep restricting access from the premises phones. So that's why these two are here from the premises phone terminals. And then from the wire that we wire from the premises phone terminals on the main board to its incoming telco terminals. That's how the AVS is going to keep getting phone service and therefore able to initiate the voice session. So like I just said, a completely separate telephone wire tip and ring pair is going to need to go into the main panels, premises phone terminals. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real fast. And now the other end is going to go into the actually ring and tip terminal on the AVS's incoming telco terminals. And just like that. So one last thing we need to cover is the dip switches that are on the AVS board. So in order to be recognized by the Vista 20P, they need to be set in a certain way. So looking at the dip switches, well, looking at the one that has 5 switches on it, not the one that has 4, it needs to be set to address 11. So on the one that has 5 switches, going from left to right, it needs to be off, off, on, off, on. So just make sure the dip switches are set accordingly. Alright, so we have just officially finished wiring up the audio verification system to the Vista 20P panel. So now let's boot up the panel and make sure everything's wired correctly. If it is wired correctly, then yeah, the keypad will just come up as normal and we'll see stuff on it. If not, it would be blank for a minute there, then it would eventually just go to saying open circuit, or it would just continually stay blank. So that's how we would know we might have made a wiring mistake somewhere, or there's a short circuit somewhere. But we don't know that yet. Let's just boot up and see what happens. Oh, okay, yep. Got something displaying on the keypad here. So, looks like we did it right after all. Alright, and yep, the keypad is up and we see a ready light on it. Alright, so now let's actually do some programming to actually get the AVS working when the alarm goes off. So, referencing its manual, in order to get it working on a compatible control unit such as the Vista 20P, we just need to enter a series of numbers on the keypad. So it looks like to enable AVS operation without panel sounds, yeah, that's one series of numbers, and there's another series of numbers to enable it with panel sounds. So I mean, in a nutshell, panel sounds just means like if the alarm goes off, the AVS also has like its own self-contained siren driver. So it can actually be a siren of its own if you have panel sounds enabled. But if you don't have panel sounds enabled on the AVS, it'll just only function for voice. So I do not want the siren sounds enabled on the AVS, because I have actually done that before, and it is actually quite loud. And I'm definitely going to probably upset my neighbors if I keep doing that. So, anyhow. So, to enable AVS operation without panel sounds on the Vista control panel, we need to enter the default installer code, which is 4112 plus pound plus 0 plus 3. And yep, it just dings you like that. And I mean, that's how you know it worked. So. Alright, so now the moment that we've all been waiting for, an operational test. So I'm going to set alarm off on the panel and test the AVS capabilities. So in this case, I'm just going to activate panic off the keypad here. Yep, you just heard the AVS kick in there. Alright, so now we just currently have one-way audio coming from the premises where the alarm is, so I cannot be heard at all. So I cannot be heard until I dial the key to enable talk mode, which I think is 1. 1, 2, 3. Talk mode is enabled. And now I, the quote-unquote central station operator, can be heard over the speaker. And now I cannot hear anything coming from the premises. And now I think if I dial 2, that is actual two-way voice mode or Vox mode. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. And yeah, you hear when I stop talking there, it keeps switching back and forth like that. 1, 2, 3. And then, yeah. I think 3 was just listen mode. Yep, this is listen mode. Just one-way audio from the premises only. So, you don't even know that I'm there. So anyway, I believe the AVS functions as intended. So I guess I'll just go ahead and hang up now. So I could either do that by just simply hanging up the handset or dialing 9. In this case, I'm going to try dialing 9. Maybe. Oh. There we go. Alright, so it appears that the AVS functions the way it should. So I think that's honestly going to do it for this episode. So thank you all for watching, and you have a nice day.